Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Crawford and welcome to another edition of Mrs. Cford Vlogs. I actually am filming an I'll Show You series today. I want to talk about using Play-Doh in the classroom. I know I teach 8th grade, and when I talk about bringing Play-Doh in for upper elementary or secondary ed, sometimes I get looks from teachers like, really? Why would we do that? Or is there really any academic value to this? And of course there is. One of the things that I like about Play-Doh is that it is, a tactile thing. Some people might not like the texture, so if people don't like the texture, and I actually have one student who's allergic to Play-Doh this year, but he can be in the same room with it. I do have Legos as an alternative for some of those kids. But ultimately, Play-Doh is seen as something that the students want to use. It gives them a chance to go outside of that box of writing things down or typing them. They're still creating, they're still showing me a skill. Oftentimes they're working together to produce something. And it's just a kind of a fun task that they don't do all the time. So one of the first things I did with Play-Doh was I asked my students, we were studying hyperboles, and I asked them to pull from a basket. I put in strips of hyperboles. So it might have been, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, or we have a ton of homework. Blindly they pulled as a group one of those hyperboles out. And whatever was on their strip was what they had to create out of Play-Doh. They were given 10 minutes to make the creation. So they didn't get, a whole class period to plan for it. They knew they were gonna have a limited time frame. So again, going back to that gamification element, putting that time limit in there really does make them work more effectively. Plus they know there's this ending time. It's not the next class period. There's nothing else outside of that. When that buzzer rings, it's done. And they created, and for that one, I said, for the end results, I'm gonna put them on Twitter. I'm gonna have people try to guess what these hyperboles are. So the groups with the most correct guesses would end up being the winner for that class, and they got house points. And you can see behind me my house points boards. So they got to put the house points in there to represent the winners. So this is an example. I know it's not in color, sorry. But these are 4 of the hyperboles that students did in Play-Doh. So this one, brain the size of a pea. This one was I had a ton of homework. I love you to the moon and back. And I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. This group here actually went in their 10 minutes. They had one of the group members go on Google and find out how to make a horse out of Play-Doh. They did a pretty good job for 10 minutes. In fact, they were the winner in their class. That worked well. It cemented the idea of the figurative language. It let me very quickly assess if there were problems with understanding the hyperbole, the exaggeration. It also made them think visually about text, which is always good to make that connection. And they were engaged in it. And with that technology element of putting it out on social media for people to get involved in, they were able to see who was guessing and what they were guessing and if their creations were effective. So we would check the next day, we would come in and check who had guessed, were their guesses correct, and they tallied them up that way. Recently, I did a lesson with connotation that used Play-Doh. So we'd been studying connotation and denotation. We took a list of potential mascots. Before we did any of this activity, they had to decide, first of all, what the denotation of all of those words were. Then they had to decide the connotation, whether it would be positive or negative. And then they were able to choose one from the list, whether it was positive or negative, and make it into a positive connotation by creating that mascot for whatever sport it would be for. So based on the connotation of the word, the things that it called to mind, what sport would it be best suited for, and then could you create a logo for that that would make you want to wear that jersey, that would make you want to root for that team, and that correctly identified that connotation of the word. So they were given prep time in class to do that work, and then again they were given a time limit. This time I gave them 15 minutes to make their logos reality, and this was an example of one of those. Okay, so I made them draw it first so that they got the visual here of what their logo would look like, and did they identify the sport, did they identify the mascot, all of that. So then this creation, for instance, they used the buzzards. Since when they looked at their denotation, they realized that the buzzard would be a scavenger, would circle until you are down, wait for you to tire out. They decided football would be a good sport. The blood represents that that scavenger bird. The birds are put on the Play-Doh, and then buzzards, their team name is represented on that logo. This was actually a winning design for the class period that they're in, because students thought the connotation went well with saying, we're going to wear you down. We're not going to give up. You'll tire out and we'll go in for the kill. So they got this, through that Play-Doh creation. We also looked at, were they able to take their design here and translate it here? So there are ways to use Play-Doh. And because I am gamified, choosing the Play-Doh colors, so I do Play-Doh in crates like this, so I have lots of colors. And Play-Doh, it really isn't that expensive. You can get it pretty cheaply. When we choose colors, now that my class is gamified, there is a spell that unlocks certain opportunities. So those students that had that spell were able to choose their Play-Doh colors first. Those are ways that you can easily use Play-Doh in your upper elementary and secondary ed classes. You can adapt it a lot of ways. And I also came up with ways to adapt some Play-Doh activities for younger grades. I'd be happy to share that with you. I can put that link actually in the comments below. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed finding out some ways to use Play-Doh in your classroom to make learning a little fun, a little gamified. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Mrs. Cford Vlogs.